What if everything you thought you knew about one of the world's most powerful pastors was actually a carefully crafted mask? Today, we are pulling back the curtain on devastating news for Pastor Creflo Dollar that is finally being unexposed, and the details coming to light are sending shockwaves through the entire global ministry. For decades, Creflo Dollar has stood as one of the ultimate titans of the prosperity gospel. His voice has echoed through the massive sanctuary of World Changers Church International in College Park, Georgia, reaching millions of believers worldwide through global television broadcasts, massive crusades, and best-selling books. He promised that financial abundance, physical healing, and divine favor were yours for the taking, provided you had the faith and, more importantly, the willingness to sow your financial seed. His ministry became synonymous with extreme wealth, boasting multi-million-dollar luxury estates, sleek Rolls-Royces, and private jets that allowed him to travel the world in unparalleled luxury. But behind this glittering empire of faith and finance, a quiet storm has been brewing. The narrative that once seemed bulletproof is beginning to show deep, irreversible fractures. Today, a series of astonishing revelations, historical reckonings, and sudden theological pivots are forcing both his most devoted followers and his fiercest critics to ask a fundamental question. Is the kingdom of Creflo Dollar beginning to crumble, or is he executing the most sophisticated survival strategy in the history of modern televangelism? To understand the sheer magnitude of what is unfolding, we have to look at the foundation of the prosperity gospel itself. This is not just a theological disagreement. It is a multi-billion-dollar global industry built on the law of reciprocity. For 30 years, Creflo Dollar preached a very specific, uncompromising message. If you give to God, God will give back to you, multiplied. This was not a suggestion. It was presented as a spiritual law as predictable as gravity. Central to this entire system was the concept of tithing, the biblical practice of giving 10% of one's income to the local church. Dollar did not just encourage tithing. He taught that failing to tithe was an act of robbing God, a spiritual transgression that would lead your finances cursed and open the door for the devourer to destroy your life. Families living on the brink of poverty were told to write checks to the ministry before buying groceries or paying rent. And for decades, they did. They poured their hard-earned money into the ministry, hoping for the breakthrough that would lift them out of their struggles, while watching their pastor fly away in private luxury. This dynamic created an incredibly powerful, polarizing empire. To his supporters, Creflo Dollar was a visionary prophet of wealth. To his critics, he was the ultimate example of spiritual exploitation. But then, the unthinkable happened. In July of 2022, Pastor Creflo Dollar walked up to his pulpit and delivered a sermon that sent shockwaves through the entire global Christian community. In a message titled "The Great Misunderstanding," he did something that no one in his position had ever done before. He looked directly into the cameras and declared that he was wrong. He admitted that his previous teachings on tithing were entirely incorrect, unbiblical, and had misled millions of people. He went so far as to tell his congregation to throw away and destroy every single book, tape, and video he had ever produced on the subject of tithing. He told them that tithing was a part of the Old Testament Mosaic law and had absolutely no place under the New Testament covenant of grace. For a man who had built a net worth estimated in the tens of millions of dollars largely on the back of tithing doctrines, this was a stunning capitulation. To some, it looked like a beautiful moment of humble repentance, a rare example of a megachurch leader admitting a massive mistake. But as the dust settled, investigators, theologians, and former members began to look closer. They started to unexpose the hidden strategy behind this sudden theological face turn. Critics quickly pointed out that while Dollar was telling people to destroy his books on tithing, he was not offering to refund a single penny of the hundreds of millions of dollars he had collected under those very doctrines over the previous 3 decades. Furthermore, a closer analysis of his new grace-giving doctrine revealed a fascinating paradox. Under the old law, giving was capped at 10%. Under the new grace doctrine, believers were told they should give out of love, with no limits whatsoever. In essence, by removing the 10% rule, Dollar had actually removed the ceiling on giving, shifting from a model of obligation to a model of emotional, unlimited partnership. But what if the monetary empire was just a smokescreen? In a moment, we will reveal the secret, complex financial entity known as World Hair Incorporated, and why it operates completely in the shadows, hidden from public scrutiny. But first, we have to look at the dark night when the carefully constructed image of the perfect Christian family was shattered by a single, desperate midnight phone call. It was 1 o'clock in the morning on June 8, 2012, when Fayette County Sheriff deputies received a frantic 911 call from inside Creflo Dollar's mansion in Fayetteville, Georgia. On the other end of the line was the pastor's 15-year-old daughter. In a trembling voice, she told the dispatcher that her father had choked her, punched her, and hit her with his shoe during an argument over whether she could attend a party. When deputies arrived at the scene, they noted physical injuries on her neck and arrested the high-profile minister on misdemeanor charges of simple battery and cruelty to children. The arrest sent shockwaves through the media. For a pastor who preached that his household was in perfect spiritual and physical order, the mugshot of Creflo Dollar was a devastating blow. The following Sunday, Dollar stood before his congregation to a roaring standing ovation. Instead of expressing contrition, he went on the defensive. He told his church that raising children in a culture of disrespect is intense, denying that he had ever choked or punched his daughter, and claiming that the media was being used by the enemy to discredit his ministry. While the legal charges were eventually dismissed after he completed a pretrial intervention program, the incident left an indelible mark. It unexposed the massive disconnect between the serene, prosperous life preached from the stage and the volatile reality behind closed doors. This disconnect became even more glaring in 2015 during the infamous private jet campaign. Creflo Dollar's ministry launched an online appeal asking for 200,000 people to donate $300 each so that the ministry could purchase a brand new Gulfstream 650 private jet valued at approximately $65 million. The campaign sparked international outrage. Even within the wider Christian community, the idea of a pastor demanding a $65 million luxury jet to travel the world was seen as the height of greed and arrogance. The campaign was eventually taken down from the website after intense public backlash, but the ministry quietly acquired the jet anyway, claiming it was essential for carrying out global missions. This brings us to the core of the unexposed reality. How does a ministry maintain this level of luxury without any public accountability? The answer lies in a complex web of corporate entities and a gaping loophole in United States tax law. Megachurches in the United States are classified as tax-exempt religious organizations, meaning they are not required to file Form 990, the public financial disclosure document that regular nonprofit organizations must submit annually. This lack of transparency allows ministries like World Changers Church International to keep their true financial dealings completely hidden from the public eye. In the late 2000s, United States Senator Charles Grassley launched a massive Senate Finance Committee investigation into the lavish lifestyles of 6 prominent televangelists, including Creflo Dollar, Benny Hinn, and Kenneth Copeland. The investigation sought to determine whether these leaders were using tax-exempt church donations to fund their personal, hyper-luxurious lifestyles. While some of the ministries cooperated, Creflo Dollar's organization refused to hand over the majority of the requested financial records, arguing that the government was overstepping its bounds and violating religious freedom. The investigation ultimately concluded without any major penalizations, but it highlighted a massive systemic issue. The public may never truly know where the hundreds of millions of dollars donated to these ministries actually go. To truly understand the impact of these controversies, we have to look at the real-world consequences for the people who buy into the prosperity doctrine. Consider the story of a church member who spent years faithfully tithing 10% of her meager paycheck, believing the promise that God would bless her with a financial breakthrough. Instead of finding prosperity, she fell further and further into debt, eventually losing her home, while her pastor moved into a multi-million-dollar mansion. When she approached church leaders for financial assistance, she was told that her struggle was a result of a lack of faith, or that she had a secret sin in her life that was blocking God's blessings. This is the devastating human cost of the prosperity gospel, a theological system that blames the victim for their own financial misfortune while enriching the leaders at the top. The devastating news for Pastor Creflo Dollar today is that this formula is no longer working as effectively as it once did. The rise of social media and independent journalism has democratized information, making it impossible for megachurch leaders to control the narrative. Younger generations of believers are actively rejecting the prosperity gospel, seeking out authenticity, financial transparency, and genuine community over glitzy stage productions and high-pressure fundraising campaigns. The shift we are seeing today is part of a larger, systemic reckoning across the global church. In the past, scandalous revelations about a pastor's finances or personal life could be quietly swept under the rug with a public apology and a temporary step back from the pulpit. Today, the public demand for accountability is relentless. When other prominent leaders, like Benny Hinn, made similar retractions regarding their prosperity teachings, they faced immense skepticism. People are no longer willing to accept words of repentance without corresponding actions, such as complete financial transparency and a willingness to step away from the luxurious perks of the ministry. For Creflo Dollar, the challenge is unprecedented. He is attempting to steer a massive global ship in a completely different theological direction while trying to retain the loyalty of a donor base that was conditioned on a totally different set of promises. It is a high-stakes balancing act that could either save his legacy or hasten the decline of his global empire. As we look at the changing landscape of modern faith, the story of Creflo Dollar serves as a powerful cautionary tale about the intersection of money, power, and religion. When a ministry becomes more focused on maintaining a corporate empire than serving its community, the foundation inevitably begins to decay. The devastating truth that is finally being unexposed is that no amount of theological maneuvering, private jet acquisitions, or public damage control can protect an empire built on promises that were never meant to be kept. If you want to dive deeper into the hidden finances of the world's most powerful megachurches and the shocking truth behind other high-profile religious scandals, make sure to watch our next video, where we expose the dark financial secrets that the prosperity gospel kings do not want you to see.